Topics may be triggering for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everybody, if you like our show, if you like listening to Kay and I talk, please subscribe to our YouTube show and come check it out, like it, comment it, let's get the word spread so hopefully it can help more people.
Yeah, look us up, Larry Labonte Recovery Center, YouTube channel.
Welcome to Recovering with Friends. I am Seth Fournier and I'm here with the co-host Kayleigh Daly, and today we're just going to share a little bit of our backstories and how we ended up with our ass in the seat. So Kayleigh, what led you to be here with us?
Lots of stuff. Well, it started when I was in high school. I didn't understand it then like I do now, It's kind of strange when you look back on it. I see things so differently now that I'm sober. I thought I was outgoing. I thought I was doing it because I wanted to party and whatever. And it was something to do. That was just who I was. I was the fun, outgoing lady, But, now I realize that I was trying to fill a void. I was really trying to fill a void. I had no healthy coping mechanisms whatsoever. And I had a little bit of trauma as a small child. And my father was a police officer, and, I kind of was a rebel. That
could make for an interesting childhood.
Yeah. I wanted to push the envelope, and, I don't know, take risks. And
how'd that go?
Sometimes good, sometimes bad. I had I got in trouble a lot. I was grounded a lot, And in a way, it kind of set up for the disappointment part. I really look up to my father. I think highly of him. He's really my hero. He's a really good person, that a guy with real integrity, and I hated that I disappointed him. So when I did, it was then I was kind of well, screw it. Yeah. I already disappointed him, so I'm the black sheep, and I really embraced the black sheep of the family. I embraced it it was a badge of honor.
Yep.
It really was. And I kind of rolled with it, and but I just, I tried everything. I had no fear. I was
I noticed that.
Yeah. Even now in sobriety, I kind of, even in sobriety, I've become an addict as far as recovery goes. It's I kind of say yes to everything, and I want to try everything in recovery. I don't know if that's just who I am or what I don't know. But I know I got here because it became habitual, and those fun experiences became daily until the fun was gone. It's no more fun. And it was just basically, I didn't want to feel anything. I wanted to be numb. Feelings were too much, too heavy. And so anytime even if I was happy, it was too much. I had to drink to be happy. And even when I, sad, mad, nervous, anxious, whatever, you name it, I was I needed to use or drink or whatever. Reality was too much. And there were a lot of other things along the way, trauma stuff along the way, that probably kicked it in higher gear. Made for perfect excuses, if you had this life, you would do it too. If you had this life, you would use too. And that's kind of the way it rolled for a while until I had an overdose. And that when I woke up, I said, the party died when I died. But and that was it.
Just to fill in a little bit, you weren't into opioids. How'd you end up with an overdose?
I was into opioids for a time.
At the time it happened.
But at the time it happened, so I had a brief, actually I shouldn't say brief, I actually started using opiates when I was in high school. And then outside of high school, I took a little I don't know, 2-3 year hiatus after I had my first daughter from them. And then I got right back into them and I was using them pretty steady until I had my second daughter. And then, then her and my fiance, my youngest daughter's father, and I did the whole trying to get sober, trying to get clean. We did that roller coaster for a long time up until he overdosed and he didn't make it. He passed away. He died. And I made a vow that I would not touch opiates.
Well, I knew that. That's what I was kind of like.
So I had completely stopped using opiates. In honor of like him, I felt like it would be a huge disrespect if I did, and I just started drinking every day. After he died, I was like I couldn't deal with it, yep. So I became a severe alcoholic. And about a year after he died, I started using cocaine. I thought it was no big deal because it wasn't heroin. I was like, oh, it's not heroin, it's no big deal. It was like a little party favor, you know?
Right.
I was like, yeah, it was no big deal. It was just when we were having, friends over or whatever, weekend parties, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And until it became a daily thing. Yeah. Until it was like I couldn't even clean my house without needing motivation. That's right. What I would call it. Oh,
I think we all did that. A lot of motivation.
Yeah, so it led me to I was at work and somebody offered me some coke and went to the bathroom and I did a line and it was not cocaine. It was straight fentanyl.
Okay, and I was just asking that so that it kind of pointed out that
it's like it was straight fentanyl. I had no idea
when you're using, bad things happen even if it's not intended. You didn't use opiates. You didn't think you were using opiates.
I did not. And, as somebody who's used opiates before, the amount that I used thinking it was cocaine, I would have never used that much. Right. Knowing if I would have known what it was. I used a very lethal dose. I should not, medically, I should not be here. I should not. And I'm really lucky I was given this second chance.
That was your kind of...
That was it.
Coming to grace moment there where...
Well, my youngest daughter doesn't have a father.
Yep.
Because of this epidemic. And I almost made it so that little girl didn't have a mom or a dad. And I couldn't do that to her. I owe it to my kids to be here and be a mother. I need to, and really it's for me now, I'm not willing to take that risk anymore. I want to actually start living. I've never really, now that I've had this journey, it's been a brief one. It's only been a little over a year, but I get up every day and I am living. I am happy, joyous, and free every single day. And that's something I never had. And I mean, never. When I was a kid, I didn't have it. And now as an adult, to have this, I don't ever want to lose it. I still have days where it's like, man, this sucks. But I constantly remind myself what a miserable person I was while I was in active addiction. Towards the end. Yeah, it was fun when I was a kid or even in my, early years of using. Yeah, okay, it might have been fun, but the fun left the building.
Right. But yeah, when you overdose, when you died, that just kind of was like just, that
oh my
moment
gosh.
Of clarity.
There was more to it. Change. I mean, I don't know if we're really allowed to... what happened to me was I had an experience. An experience that I can't truly explain. For me, it was a spiritual experience. I always believed in God, but that moment, what happened to me, there's no denying God anymore.
So yeah, that was your spiritual awakening.
It was. So how about you? What landed your butt in this seat?
Well, I started off as was put earlier tonight, somebody speaking, was that I was kind of that shy, nervous kid, a little bit of a loner, all that type of stuff, divorced parents, never quite felt fit in, and I didn't use very young at all. I mean, I had a few drinks in high school, tried pot a couple times in high school. That was it. I hit like 21 and was always like, well, under our roof, you got to buy rules. Well, at 18, I was gone.
Yeah, me too.
Kind of bounced around or whatever. And 21, I was old enough to buy it, and I thought alcohol was pretty good, but I never really liked alcohol. But I liked the feeling. well, drank for a while or whatever, and when I first came in here, I identified myself as an addict. Well, now that I'm sober a little longer, I'm seeing that alcohol really kind of led a huge part of it. What I found out was, well, I like the feeling of being drunk. I like to be wasted. I like to be fucked up. And if I did stimulants, that just made it all that much better. That lasted that longer. I could drink a little bit less and get fucked up and still make it to work in the morning and blah, blah, blah. And then I went through the thing where, well, you know what, drinking's a problem, so I just started using drugs more. Then I'd drink a little bit, use drugs, in and out, blah, blah, blah. But it was like always like, okay, well, if I don't do this, the insanities of it all, I'll be okay. Well, that went on for quite a while, and then I went through a very difficult time in my life. And it's like I could manage it all to then. It was somewhat fun and games, but times was obviously worse than others, but it was still somewhat. And then it was like a 5-year downhill spiral after divorce. And somewhere in there, like shortly after that, we ended up meeting, and I'm pretty sure it was over a plate with a bell in her nose.
Yeah. I mean,
it was an interesting experience.
We had quite a role there.
We did, but it's kind of cool because it led to here. Well, at the end of it, then I went through another breakup, and it was going to be like my second time. Family breaking apart. I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand what Marissa was going through. I couldn't relate, and all I could do was judge everybody else's actions, not my own, and that just kind of set off even. The use actually got less at the point. I quit drinking, I was using less, but I was in such a bad mental spot. It's like where it finally showed up in life of how messed up I was. Now, in a lot of ways, I was doing better than I had been doing, but I was so damaged by life that was there. What it did is it just showed how hurting I was all along, and it brought it to my attention. So even though I was using less, and in some ways things were better, I was in a bad spot till I was sitting in the rain in a shed thinking about taking my own life in the middle of the night because we were just having another one of the bad fights, and she couldn't understand where I was coming from, and I couldn't understand where she was, and
nobody was probably willing to understand at that point.
That was
either.
it, because we couldn't understand what ourselves were going through, never mind what else, because we were both using and we were both hurt.
Mm-hmm. In the mix of my addiction, I know, like in arguments and stuff, it was like, but you're not getting it. You know, you're not getting me. And it's like, I never took even the slightest time to stop and pause and listen to that other person.
Right. And at this point, I had started to. That's how we kind of ended up getting back together, is I had started listening. It was kind of coming there, but we still weren't there and still using it. And it kind of went towards that just really tough, dark time. It really kind of brought out more mental illness, but it broke me. But that night, I myself had kind of my spiritual awakening. At that point, I admitted to friends and family that I had a problem, that things weren't there, and some things looking back on and like that kind of noticing. Like I remember testing some stuff. Oh yeah, there's a little fentanyl. Well, it didn't kill me already. I might as well continue using it. I don't want to waste the money. Talk about just. I mean, that's why I was asking you like how you ended up with your
That's really cool.
Overdose.
I'm not saying it's cool, but I think I remember you telling me about that, about testing the drugs to see if there was fentanyl in it, and that really interests me because I'm like, those are stimulants, and they're putting fentanyl in them.
Exactly. And I wasn't the one that tested it, but the guy I got it from called me, and I'm like, well, I already tried it, so I kind of went through it. And it's like, how crazy is that? I'm completely anti-opiates, and I used to think I was anti-people doing opiates, which I realized I wasn't. I'm anti the drug because of what it's doing. I'm anti all drugs now. I mean, and it changed my view on it, but even having those things and being so much a stickler for that and always saying that, I still used it.
Yeah.
And it's talking about just showing you the problems that you have and how much it just kind of grips you a little bit. So, like, going through that stuff and then finally opening up, and that landed my ass in one of these chairs, which is the best thing. It saved my life. That spiritual awakening saved my life.
It did me. I mean, I carried a lot of resentment to the woman who gave me the what I thought was cocaine, you know, and now I really truly believe in my heart that it all needed to happen. I wouldn't be right here living the life I'm living today if that had not had happened. I know I would still be out there using.
Right. And I mean, I'm not sitting there and cutting her a break for any means what happened. I mean, that was terrible what she did. But, I mean, ultimately, it's our own decisions what we did. I mean, if you wouldn't have been shoving something in your nose, that wouldn't have happened.
I know.
Just like if I wasn't
I made
doing
that
stuff,
reckless choice.
I wanted to blame everybody else around me, too. Or I wanted to blame people around me for how I got there. Well, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have done that. If this wouldn't happen. It's complete BS that we tell ourselves.
I was angry. I was really angry. Primarily because, you know, one of my daughters already lost a parent. And it was like, you know, I thought I was doing something else. And I felt really betrayed because this person had said that that they didn't use that kind of stuff. So I would have never thought that would even been a chance, you know? So, but I still like, now it's like I'm at a point in my recovery where it's like, you know what? That had to happen.
Well, I was just going to say that. Like,
I've
talked to you a lot, and this is the first time I've ever heard you really say that and not be so much like angry or still blaming on that. It's like,
no, it had to.
It had to happen. You did it. It's just like I did all my things.
In a way, it's like I tell people when I do tell my story,
But now you're a year in, and you
can
see all this, and you're coming to that clue. That's what recovery.
Recovery is amazing. I really rely. For my recovery, I rely heavily on some of the 12-step programs and a sponsor. I have a sponsor. But I also, bigger than my sponsor in this program is the fellowship. Like what you and I have. I mean, our relationship, look at how it developed and evolved from what we were doing a couple years ago to sitting right here, making meaningful connections. And I love being part of your life, and I love being part of Marissa's. I love being part of so many people that I've met in recovery. It's not just, it's not just a normal friendship. In the recovery community, these are lifelong connections. These are connections that you know for a fact that if I picked up that phone and I called any one of those people, they would answer. And if I said I need help, they would drop whatever they were doing, because all of us have the same thing. We believe that recovery is priority one. And priority one, I mean above my kids, above my family, above myself. Recovery has to be up here, and I have to treat it like that, because if I look at my addiction as a disease, because I believe it is, being in recovery and doing those things, doing the fellowship, coming to the meetings and all that stuff, that's the medicine that treats my disease. And if I miss those doses, I'm at risk of using again.
But yeah, I mean, talk about how full circle though. I mean, before I was call up and it's like, hey, can you get me a gram or a ball? So that now it's like call up and it's like, hey, Kay, you want to come do the show with me? We're going to help people with recovery and talk about it. What a huge change happened. I know in the 6 months that I've gone through these programs and have worked with myself and done all this, the incredible amount of change and where I'm at, where I'm helping people instead of just hurting myself. It's so cool. And I'm watching you're a year into it, and the things you've done for people and the people that reach out. I mean, it's absolutely cool. I find a huge part of it is why this show started, why I called you up and said, hey, you want to come do this crazy idea I have? One is because I'm completely freaking insane. That part hasn't disappeared. I mean, the drugs disappeared, but I'm still kind of nuts. But calling you up and doing that because one of the biggest things that helped me is sitting there and talking to all my friends that either I've had or made. And some of my friends are still in addiction. I'll have these talks with them. We can have great talks about recovery. They're exploring it, but talking with the people I've met here, talking with you. And I mean, this is a daily basis having these talks. And to me, this is as good a medicine as any of it that I've had.
Absolutely.
I want to use an analogy, but it's been a pretty amazing thing. But what...
The fellowship's the most important part for me. Yeah. These types of moments
right here. The things that we're building up. But what was the biggest reason why you wanted to come sit down, put yourself out there doing this show, sharing your scary story, and making yourself this vulnerable to do it? Why'd you say yes when I called you up? Because
I have been wanting to change the mindset of the non-addict.
Yep.
That is a huge importance for me. Helping people that are in addiction, get to recovery is obviously important to me. But I really feel like anyone who's ready to be in recovery, they have to be ready. And when they're ready, they're ready. And you're right there willing to put your hand out there and grab them. It's the people that are not addicts and have never suffered from addiction that need help changing their mindset. I'm done. I want to take the shame away. I want to take the shame away from addiction, from people that have struggled with mental illness and addiction. I'm done with them hiding in the shadows and not knowing where to go, not knowing that there's a huge community right here that's ready for them to help them. But the non-addicts, they're so judgmental because they don't understand the education part of it. They don't have the knowledge, of what it takes to be in recovery. That we do recover. We do recover. If I told you the dirty details of the things that I did in the middle of my addiction, I would think somebody who doesn't understand addiction would look at me like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you, Kayleigh Daly, did those things, because, they might have an idea, but they don't know the dirty details of it. And
we all have those secrets.
So to see someone like myself come from those deep, dark places and actually recover, and, I want people to see that. I want them to see that so that they'll stop judging people that aren't there yet and understand, there's people that'll say, if they saw somebody overdosing, that they wouldn't even help them because they would just let them die because they made a choice. They made that choice. They need to live with it or die with it, one or the other. And it's like, well, thank goodness somebody saved me.
And I can say I fell into that through a lot of years of my addiction as much as anybody else, where I sat there and judged it and like sitting there going, well, they don't deserve it or whatever. But you're thinking, I would think of some of the worst case scenarios. But now that I've been there and I've seen people that have been in the darkest places, like making these huge turnarounds and doing these awesome things in life, it's like, who the hell am I to decide who lives and dies? Who the hell are anybody else that's out on these streets that say that? Because you don't know the potential somebody has. But I'm glad you brought that up. So with me, the biggest thing of starting the show is I want to get rid of the stigma to it. I want it to be a little bit loud for the people that don't dare to.
Have
that
a
are
voice.
too ashamed
Give them the
still,
voice.
That are still, if they're in a program in a church basement, that don't dare to, they don't want people to know because they're scared of the repercussions with it. I'm kind of scared of that sometimes too, but you know what? Somebody needs to be example, and there needs to be more of us. And there's a lot of people out there, and we're just two of them, but it's like we're two that are local, and I can't change the world, but I can change my community. I can start to change my community. I can change one life, help one person, talk to one person, just make one person feel welcome. And it does everything. And just bringing the awareness to what's going on and try to get it where people dare to either go to that first meeting or come to the resource center or just call out to a friend, and they don't feel like, well, I'm a drug addict or I'm a drunk and I'm never going to be any better than that. And then they just feel it that way, and they feel like they're judged that way.
Or the world would be better without them.
Right, and when you have people around saying ignorant comments about stuff like that all the time,
it drives it home for them. It makes them believe it
that way. So if we can touch a few people, that we make think that they're good enough, that they deserve a good life, that they can live a good life, that there's people out there that have their back, that there's people out there that understand, that there's resources. Just bring some awareness. Bring awareness to the people that don't suffer, but bring awareness to the people that do suffer, that they can come in here. And there's a lot of us that go through it. A lot of us heal.
Yeah, that's what hope and healing. It's right on there. What you guys put out there on our YouTube page, hope and healing. That's what it is. It's what I want to put out there for people. I want not just, and there could be somebody who's suffering with a family member that's dealing with this, I want them to, and somebody who maybe is nervous about starting their journey into recovery and thinking that it has to be black and white and it has to be done a certain way. And it's like, no, recovery is so individualized.
Yeah, and it's kind of what you want. I don't care if you're in a 12-step program, if it's counseling,
whatever it is for you.
If it's working with friends, if it's just showing up and do recovery coaching at the center, if it's going to your local priest, whatever works and help you get through it. I mean, I found the 12 steps have worked really well, but I found talking with my friends works as well as anything.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the stuff in the 12 steps helped me get there.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to belittle a 12-step program because they're amazing programs, and if you do them, it helps you kind of get there. But the people you meet, and there's lots of resources out there. And
the connections will save you. The connections with people. You're going to make real relationships here.
And I've met some of the best people, and some of them are very early into the journey, some are later in there, but I've met some really cool things. And once you just kind of accept people for who they are, and you look for the best in them, and you try to help them with the worst, and you try to let them help you with the worst, man, it just makes things a lot better. It's
about being vulnerable. You need to be vulnerable and have the courage to be vulnerable. Don't let your ego, don't let your pride get in the way. But, that's what led me, my ego and my pride led me directly into my addiction. Being vulnerable and sharing my journey, sharing my story. That's why I'm here. It's going to keep me sharing. It's going to keep me doing what I need to do to stay sober.
And we're two people that, we ended up for the last couple of years partying together quite a bit. Did some not so good things. We did a lot of good things too, but we did a lot of not so good things. We tried to be the family we were, but we were in dark places, and we've come a long way. You've come a long way, and I've seen a ton of people so the recovery's there, hope's there.
I'm happy to be here, so thank you for even bringing me on.
And I love it when people reach out and sit there and talk. It makes me feel good, but it makes me feel good that I'm helping. It's ego is not always a bad thing. When somebody reaches out and says, "Oh, thank you for this," and stuff, it's an ego because now I want to use my ego to help people. I want to use it for good things, not just selfish purposes that was so much there. But thank you so much, Kay, and I can't wait to do the next episode with you.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Love you, Kay.
I love you too. Me.